June 3rd, 1942. Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Late night. The room is dark except for desk lamps. Paper covers every surface. Crumpled notes, scribbled numbers, half-decoded phrases written and crossed out again and again. The air smells of stale coffee and cigarette smoke. No one has slept. At the center of the room, a man sits barefoot in a worn Navy uniform, collar open, sleeves rolled up. His name is Commander Joseph Rochefort. And in front of him is a message that should not exist. A whisper from the enemy. The Japanese Navy believes its code is unbreakable. They call it JN25. Thousands of code groups, constantly changing additives, layers of encryption designed to confuse, delay, exhaust. The Japanese commanders, it is secure enough to plan wars. To Rochefort, it is a puzzle that refuses to stay quiet. He stares at the message again. Fragments only. Partial meanings. Gaps everywhere. But something is clear. The Japanese are about to move. The clock is already ticking. Outside, Pearl Harbor sleeps uneasily. 6 months earlier, the harbor burned. Battleships sank in flames. Thousands died before breakfast. Everyone in this room remembers that morning, and no one wants to repeat it. Rochefort rubs his eyes and leans closer to the table. The decoded fragments keep repeating one term. AF. Target designation. Not a ship. Not a fleet. A place. But where? The problem with knowing too much. Rochefort's team has been working non-stop for months. Cryptanalysts, linguists, mathematicians, clerks, civilians in uniform. They are not glamorous. They do not fly planes. They do not fire guns. Their battlefield is paper. And the enemy is time. They know just enough to be dangerous, but not enough to be certain. If they guess wrong, the Pacific Fleet could sail straight into a trap. If they hesitate, Japan will strike first. The Admiral who must decide. Across the base, Admiral Chester W. Nimitz studies a map of the Pacific. Red pins mark Japanese positions. Blue pins show American forces. The imbalance is obvious. Japan has more carriers, more experienced pilots, momentum. Nimitz knows this. What he does not know is where Japan will strike next. Then Rochefort's report arrives. Not confident, not polished, but urgent. AF is the target. Nimitz looks at the map and stops. Midway. Midway Atoll is small, tiny, even, a speck of land in the vast Pacific. Why would Japan attack there? It makes no sense. Unless the dangerous test. Rochefort proposes something bold. Risky. Possibly career-ending. If AF is Midway, then Japanese intelligence will be listening. So let Midway send an unencrypted message. A fake one. Something simple. Something believable. Water shortages. If Japan reacts, the truth will be undeniable. The room goes quiet. This is not standard procedure. This is improvisation. But the war does not wait for procedure. The enemy takes the bait. Hours later, a Japanese transmission is intercepted. Fresh. Urgent. It mentions AF. And it mentions water shortages. Rochefort doesn't smile. He exhales. Slowly. Because now he knows. And now the war has shifted. A decision that changes everything. Admiral Nimitz receives confirmation. AF is Midway. The Japanese plan an ambush. But now, the ambush will be reversed. For the first time since Pearl Harbor, the United States will not react. It will wait. And strike first. What Japan never imagined. Somewhere across the Pacific, Japanese officers finalize their plans. They trust their code. They trust their secrecy. They believe the enemy is blind. They never imagine that a man in Hawaii, barefoot in a dark room, already knows where they are going. And that their next move has already been predicted. The trap is set. But the Japanese Navy does not know. They are the ones about to sail into it. Pearl Harbor. Early June 1942. Before dawn. The lights in the basement never go out. There are no windows here, no sense of time, just the hum of ceiling fans and the constant rustle of paper. Coffee cups pile up in corners. Ashtrays overflow. This is Station Hypo. And this is where Japan's secrets are slowly dying. JN 25. The Wall. The Japanese naval code is not one code. It is thousands. Each message is broken into code groups. Each group represents a word or phrase. Then those groups are scrambled again with random additives. Even if you recognize a phrase, it can vanish the next day. It is designed to do one thing perfectly. Wear the enemy down. Many in Washington believe it cannot be broken in time to matter. Rochefort disagrees. Mind that refuses to quit. Joseph Rochefort is not a neat man. He works barefoot. He sleeps on the floor. He ignores rank and paperwork. But he understands patterns. Where others see chaos, he sees rhythm. He does not try to crack the entire code. He hunts meaning, repetition, habits, human error. Because no system is perfect, especially not one run by humans. Fragments become shapes. A phrase appears again, then again, then again. Different numbers, same structure. Fleet movements, timetables, refueling references. Rochefort's team circles phrases in red pencil. Strings appear between papers. Walls fill with partial translations. Nothing is complete. But everything points in one direction. A large operation. Soon. The internal war. Not everyone believes Rochefort. In Washington, other intelligence units disagree. They believe Japan will strike elsewhere, the Aleutians, the South Pacific, maybe even Hawaii again. Reports conflict. Careers are on the line. Rochefort refuses to soften his assessment. He is not guessing. He is reading intent. The weight of being right. If Rochefort is wrong, American carriers could be lost. If he is right, the United States could change the war in a single battle. That weight sits heavy in the room. No one jokes now. No one talks about home. They work. The confirmation. The fake water shortage message does its job. Japanese transmissions react exactly as predicted. AF is confirmed. Midway is the target. Rochefort's team goes silent. Because now comes the hardest part. Convincing command to trust intelligence over instinct. Nimitz chooses to believe. Admiral Nimitz listens. Carefully, he understands risk. He understands uncertainty. But he also understands opportunity. He decides to bet everything on information most people will never know existed. American carriers will sail early. They will hide. They will wait. The invisible hand. As ships begin moving, Japanese commanders remain confident. Their plan is elegant, complex, coordinated. They believe surprise is guaranteed. They do not know their words have been read. They do not know their timing is exposed. They do not know that the battlefield has already been shaped. The calm before Midway. Out on the Pacific, waves roll gently beneath empty skies. No shots fired. No alarms sounding. Yet the outcome of the next great battle is already bending. Because when one side knows the future, the present becomes a weapon. And the next section brings us to the moment when intelligence becomes action. When coded words turn into aircraft, torpedoes, and fire. And when Japan's greatest fleet sails straight into a trap it never saw coming, Pacific Ocean. Early June 1942. Far beyond the horizon. The carriers move in silence. Radio discipline is absolute. No unnecessary transmissions, no signals that might betray their position. The ocean is wide, but the enemy's ears are everywhere. On the flight decks, crews work without knowing the full plan. They don't need to. Orders are enough. A fleet that shouldn't be here. Admiral Nimitz has made a decision most commanders would never dare. He sends his carriers forward despite being outnumbered. USS Enterprise, USS Hornet, and the damaged but still breathing USS Yorktown, hastily repaired after Coral Sea. On paper, this force should lose. Japanese intelligence believes Yorktown is sunk. They believe American morale is shattered. They believe the Pacific Fleet is reactive, slow, predictable. They are wrong. Information becomes position. Because Rochefort cracked the code, Nimitz knows more than just the target. He knows timing. He knows approach routes. He knows Japan's confidence. The American carriers take positions northeast of Midway, hidden by distance and silence. They wait. Not in fear. In certainty. The Japanese advance. Vice Admiral Chuichi Nagumo commands the Japanese carrier force. It is the most powerful naval striking arm ever assembled. 4 fleet carriers. Elite pilots. Veterans of Pearl Harbor. Nagumo believes surprise is complete. His carriers steam toward Midway, confident that American forces will arrive too late to matter. He does not know he is already being watched. Midway wakes up. Before dawn on June 4th, Japanese aircraft roar off carrier decks. Their mission is simple. Crush Midway. Draw out American carriers. Destroy them. Bombs fall on the island. Airfields burn. Anti-aircraft guns fire wildly into the sky. Midway is battered. But it survives. And more importantly, it radios everything. The first warning. Midway's scouts spot the Japanese fleet. Coordinates are sent. American carriers receive confirmation. Rochefort's predictions are no longer theory. They are reality. A decision under pressure. Nagumo now faces confusion. Reports arrive that Midway is not neutralized. Another strike may be needed. At the same time, scouts report American ships nearby. Which threat comes first? Nagumo hesitates. Planes are rearmed, then rearmed again. Bombs swapped for torpedoes. Torpedoes swapped back. The flight decks fill with fueled aircraft. This is the moment Rochefort never saw, but predicted. The window opens. American torpedo squadrons attack first. They are brave. They are slow. They are slaughtered. Japanese fighters cut them down mercilessly. But the attacks force Japanese combat air patrols low, and the sky above the fleet opens. The unseen hand pays off. High above, American dive bombers arrive, unnoticed, unopposed. They look down and see something no pilot ever expects. 4 Japanese carriers, packed decks, fueled aircraft, live ordnance everywhere. Seconds matter now. And in the next section, those seconds will decide the fate of the Pacific War. Because intelligence has delivered the enemy exactly where it was predicted. June 4th, 1942. Mid-morning. Above the Japanese fleet. The sky is suddenly full. American dive bombers roll over the clouds and tip their noses down. The ocean rushes up to meet them. Wind screams past canopies. Pilots grip their controls and stare straight into anti-aircraft fire. Below them, the Japanese carriers are caught at the worst possible moment. Decks crowded. Fuel lines open. Bombs stacked wing to wing. It is a nightmare scenario no admiral plans for. The attack no one expected. The Japanese look up too late. Dive bombers fall almost vertically, engines howling. Tracers streak upward. Flak bursts around the aircraft, black and violent. But the timing is perfect. The Japanese combat air patrol is low, chasing American torpedo planes that are already dying in the waves. The sky above the carriers is nearly empty. Akagi. Lieutenant Commander Dick Best lines up on the flagship. He releases. The bomb falls. It punches through the flight deck and detonates deep inside the ship. Flames erupt instantly, fed by aviation fuel and armed aircraft. Akagi is mortally wounded in seconds. Kaga. Another bomb slams into Kaga. Then another. Explosions tear through hangar decks. Fire races through the ship faster than any crew can respond. The carrier lists sharply. Damage control teams run into walls of flame. There is no saving her. Soryu is hit next. Bombs strike with brutal precision. The flight deck becomes an inferno. Aircraft ignite. Ordnance detonates in chain reactions. Within minutes, 3 of Japan's 4 fleet carriers are burning wrecks. The 5th minute. It has taken less than 5 minutes. 5 minutes to destroy the heart of Japan's naval air power. 5 minutes to erase years of training, experience, and confidence. The Japanese Navy is stunned. This was not supposed to happen. A battle already decided. The 4th carrier, Hiryu, will strike back later, damaging Yorktown. But the balance is already gone. American aircraft find Hiryu and destroy her as well. By nightfall, all 4 Japanese fleet carriers that attacked Pearl Harbor are either sinking or doomed. Japan's elite naval aviators are dead or lost at sea. They cannot be replaced. The shock spreads. On Japanese ships, disbelief turns into horror. Officers stare at burning wrecks where carriers once sailed proudly. Radio messages go unanswered. Plans dissolve. The enemy was waiting. And no one understands how. The invisible victory. No one aboard those bombers knows about Rochefort. No one pulling survivors from the water understands what happened in a basement in Hawaii. They only know the enemy was in the wrong place at the wrong time. But that wrong place was chosen weeks earlier by a man reading fragments of code. Midway ends the advance. Japan will never regain the initiative in the Pacific. Its carrier force is shattered. Its pilot corps decimated. Its strategic momentum gone. All because surprise failed. And in war, surprise is everything. The question that lingers: how did the Americans know? Why were they waiting? The Japanese will ask this question for years, and the answer will haunt them. Because the battle was not won by guns alone. It was won by intelligence. And the next section reveals how this victory reshaped the war, and how the man who made it possible was almost forgotten. Midway Atoll. Days after the battle. The ocean is quiet again. Wreckage floats where carriers once ruled. Oil slicks stretch across the water, black against the blue. Pieces of aircraft bob gently in the swell. The smell of smoke still hangs in the air even as the guns fall silent. The Battle of Midway is over. And already, the world is trying to understand what just happened. A victory without a face. Newspapers explode with headlines. American Navy wins decisive battle. Japan halted in the Pacific. Photographs show pilots, admirals, ships. But there is no image of Joseph Rochefort. There cannot be. His war was secret. The problem with intelligence victories: you can show a burning carrier. You cannot show a decoded message. You can celebrate a pilot. You cannot easily explain a pattern recognized at 3 a.m. by a man who hadn't slept in days. So the victory becomes something else. A triumph of courage. A stroke of luck. A bold gamble that paid off. The truth is quieter, and far more unsettling. Rochefort stays in the shadows. At Station Hypo, there is no celebration. The lights stay on. The coffee keeps brewing. The codes keep coming. Japan does not stop transmitting just because it lost Midway. If anything, it transmits more. Rochefort barely acknowledges the victory. There is no time. Washington turns cold. Instead of praise, Rochefort faces skepticism. Other intelligence officers in Washington dislike that a field unit was right when they were wrong. Rivalries flare. Credit is redirected. Reports are rewritten. Names are omitted. Rochefort is quietly sidelined. He is reassigned, removed from the work he excels at. The man who predicted Midway is pushed out of codebreaking. The war moves forward. Meanwhile, the Pacific War changes shape. Japan goes on the defensive. America takes the initiative. Island by island, the Allies advance. Every operation now considers intelligence first. Radio traffic is watched. Patterns are studied. Codes are hunted relentlessly. Midway becomes doctrine. Japan's silent panic. Within the Japanese Navy, something breaks. They change codes repeatedly. They tighten procedures. They search for leaks that do not exist. They assume espionage. They never fully grasp the truth. That one man, with a small team, read enough of their intent to change the course of the war, the cost of being right. Rochefort does not fight for recognition. He never complains publicly. But those close to him see the toll, the exhaustion, the bitterness, the knowledge that history may never know. He once says quietly, "They'll never believe it was that simple." Midway's real legacy. Midway is taught in academies as a turning point. Tactics are analyzed. Aircraft are studied. Decisions are debated. But beneath all of it lies a harder truth. Wars are decided long before the first shot is fired. They are decided by who knows what the enemy will do next. A dangerous new reality. From this point forward, secrecy becomes paranoia. Encryption becomes obsession. Signals intelligence becomes a weapon equal to any fleet. Midway teaches every nation the same lesson. If your enemy can read your mind, you have already lost. A man history almost missed. Joseph Rochefort returns to quiet work. No parades, no medals at the time, no public praise, but his impact echoes in every intercepted signal that follows. And the final section of this story reveals how long it took for the truth to surface, and why Japan never truly recovered from the moment it was outthought, not outfought, Pacific Ocean. Late 1942 into 1943. A different kind of silence. The guns at Midway have stopped, but the war does not slow. It accelerates. Japan moves blind. After Midway, the Japanese Navy feels something it has never felt before. Uncertainty. Plans are still made. Fleets still move. Orders are still transmitted. But confidence is gone. Commanders begin to hesitate. Scouts are sent wider. Escorts grow heavier. They do not know why Midway went wrong. And that makes it worse. Because if you do not know how you were defeated, you cannot be sure it will not happen again. Codes change, patterns don't. Japan rushes to change JN-25. New additives, new tables, new procedures. On paper, it looks secure again. At Station Hypo, Rochefort's former colleagues receive the new traffic and feel the familiar weight settle in their chests. Back to fragments. Back to gaps. Back to long nights. But the lesson of Midway has already altered everything. They no longer need to read everything. They only need to read enough. Patterns still exist. Habits still repeat. Human nature still leaks information. Intelligence becomes a weapon. American commanders now plan operations with intelligence at the center, not as support, as the foundation. Before every move, they ask, what is the enemy transmitting? What are they worried about? What are they preparing for? Battles begin to feel less chaotic. Ambushes become more common. Japanese forces sail into positions that seem strangely anticipated. They start to suspect something impossible. A navy that never fully recovers. Japan tries to rebuild its carrier force. New ships are laid down. Pilots are trained. But experience cannot be replaced. The elite aircrews lost at Midway were the product of years, not months. Their replacements lack the instincts, the confidence, the cohesion. American pilots, meanwhile, improve rapidly. They train harder, fly more, learn from every encounter. And behind them, intelligence keeps whispering. Rochefort watches from afar. Joseph Rochefort is no longer at the center. He reads reports. He hears fragments of what his former team accomplishes. He knows when intelligence works, even when his name is not attached. It is a strange kind of victory, the kind that erases its author. The long shadow of Midway. Every Japanese operation now carries the shadow of Midway. Commanders overthink. They delay. They add complexity where simplicity once ruled. Fear of being predicted becomes a strategic handicap. And the Americans notice. A new balance of power. By 1943, the Pacific War has a rhythm. America advances. Japan reacts. Not because Japan lacks courage, but because it lacks surprise. The greatest weapon it once held is gone. The quiet truth. Midway did not just destroy carriers, it destroyed initiative. And initiative, once lost, is almost impossible to regain. Because now, the Americans are not guessing. They are reading. And the final section of this story brings us to the moment when history finally catches up with the truth and acknowledges the man Japan never knew existed, United States. Decades after the war, long after the silence, history has a strange way of choosing its heroes. Some are remembered instantly, others wait, and some almost disappear entirely. A victory that stayed classified. For years after World War II, the truth about Midway remains buried. Documents are sealed, reports are sanitized, intelligence successes are deliberately blurred because revealing them would expose methods still in use. Official histories speak of bravery, of bold decisions, of courageous pilots and decisive admirals. All of that is true, but incomplete. The name Joseph Rochefort rarely appears. The cost of speaking the truth. Rochefort never campaigns for recognition. He retires quietly. He lives simply. He avoids publicity. Those who knew him say he remained proud of Midway, but resigned to being invisible. When asked once why he never pushed back against Washington politics, he answers calmly, "The work mattered, credit didn't." But history almost makes that choice for him permanently. Japan's lingering mystery. Across the Pacific, Japanese historians wrestle with Midway for decades. How did surprise fail so completely? Why were American carriers waiting? Why did everything unravel so quickly? Some suspect espionage. Others blame luck. Many assume coincidence. Few imagine the truth, that their enemy read just enough of their intentions to predict the future. That secrecy failed not through betrayal, but through mathematics, patience, and pattern recognition. The files open. In the 1960s and 70s, classified files begin to surface. Slowly. Carefully. And with them, the story changes. Historians discover station hypo. They read Rochefort's reports. They see the water shortage deception. The narrative shifts. Midway was not luck. It was preparation. Recognition. Late but real. In 1985, long after the war, Joseph Rochefort is finally awarded the Distinguished Service Medal. Posthumously. It is a quiet correction of history. A small ceremony. A large truth. The citation states plainly that his work was decisive. For those who understand intelligence, it is one of the most important acknowledgements of the war. Why Midway really matters. Midway is often called the turning point of the Pacific War. That is true, but the deeper lesson is this. Wars are not only fought on land, sea, and air. They are fought in anticipation, in prediction, in the ability to know what comes next. Japan lost Midway not because its sailors lacked courage, but because its future was exposed. The invisible battlefield. Today, every modern military understands this. Signals intelligence, cyber warfare, surveillance. All trace their lineage back to rooms like Station Hypo, to people like Rochefort, to moments when knowing replaced guessing. The final irony. Japanese soldiers never imagined a single codebreaker could predict their next move. They imagined spies, saboteurs, traitors. They never imagined a barefoot officer in Hawaii, surrounded by paper, quietly changing the course of the war. No gun in his hand. No uniform on the battlefield. Just time. And insight. Closing. The Battle of Midway was decided before the first plane took off. It was decided when someone chose to trust intelligence over assumption. When patterns were believed. When the future was read, not guessed. And that is why Japan never saw it coming.